Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. So we are from the group Tesla, and today we will presenting topic 3.4 until 3.6 and appendix 3.1 for economic development. These are our group members. My name is Cik Muhammad Firdaus bin Cik Harun 262015, Oi Shufen 269942, Dishalini anak perempuan Regina 267808, Fatin Najihah binti Muhammad Saad 265151, and the last one is Alia Afza Ashikin binti Kamalul Hakim 268007. And this is our topic 3.4, the International Dependence Revolution. And we will go deeper and further details in the next slide, so that we touch about the neo-colonial dependence model, the false paradigm model, and the dualistic development thesis. So what is the international dependence revolution? The first one is we can get from the history, which is during the 1970s, international dependence model gained support because of disagreements with both the stages and structural change models in economics. The second one is developing countries caught in a dependence and dominance relationship with rich countries. And the third one is had enjoyed a resurgence in the 21st century as some of its views have been adopted, and it is applicable for the undeveloped countries with the rich countries, albeit in modified form by theorists and leaders of the anti-globalization movement that comes that very quite radical and extreme from the view of economics. Alright, now we start with the first major streams, which is the neo-colonial dependence model. So there is a center-periphery relationship due to the political and economic power held by the developed countries over the undeveloped countries. So the countries at the center know they can gain from the countries in the periphery, and do in fact gain regardless of the quality as a result. So the center means the developed country, and the periphery is the undeveloped country that rely on the developed countries. So the disbursement of income and wealth is extremely unequal, and the wealthy keep for themselves rather than investing in development. And as a result, the indirect outgrowth of Marxist thinking, small elite ruling class interests, knowingly or not, to perpetuate the international capitalist system or inequality. The elitist activities and viewpoints inhibit any genuine reform efforts. It may even lower levels of living and to the perpetuation of underdevelopment. So it tell us that there are some inequality and some quality that result from the that not same situation for the developed and undeveloped country. And the second one is the false paradigm model. It is a second and less radical international dependence approach to development of economics. The proposition that developing countries have failed to develop underdevelopment as a result of faulty and inappropriate advice, well-meaning, though uninformed or biased advices from the developed country agencies and multinational donor organizations towards the underdeveloped countries. Leading university, intellectual, trade unions, high-level government economists, and other civil servants all get their training in developed country institutions, where they are unwittingly serve an unhealthy dose of alien concept and elegant but inapplicable theoretical models towards the undeveloped country that make them more problems and make the undeveloped country remain the same situation. And this is the last of the major stream of thought, which is the dualistic development thesis. So the coexistence of phenomena that are mutually exclusive to different groups of society. This coexistence is chronic and not merely transitional. It is not due to temporary phenomenon, in which case time could eliminate the discrepancy between superior and inferior elements. Not only do the degrees of superiority of inferiority fail to show any signs of diminishing, but they even have an inherent tendency to increase. For example, the productivity gap between workers in developed countries and their counterparts in most developing countries seem to widen with each passing year. And the interrelation between the superior and inferior elements are such that the superior element does little or nothing to pull up the inferior element. So this is the inequality, and also show that there are some two situation that different between and gap between workers in developed countries and their undeveloped countries. And this is the conclusion and implication that we can get from this topic. Each one, and the number one is all the ideological reject the exclusive emphasis on traditional neoclassical economic theories designed to accelerate the growth of GDP as the principle of development. And the second one is all the ideology place more emphasis on international power imbalances and on needed fundamental economic, political, and institutional reforms, both domestic and worldwide. And the last one is the best cause for developing countries is to become entangled as little as possible, which is the minimum with the developed countries, and instead pursue a policy of autarky or inwardly directed development, or at most trade only with other developed countries. So this is the conclusion that we can get from this topic.
Thank you Firdaus for his part, and now I will present the neoclassical counter-revolution market fundamentalism, which contain two subtopics, which are challenging the static model and traditional neoclassical growth theory. The political ascendancy of conservative governments in the United States, Canada, Britain, and West Germany came with a neoclassical counter-revolution in economic theory and policy. In developed nations, this counter-revolution favored supply-side macroeconomics policy, rational expectation theories, and the privatization of public corporations. In developing countries, it called for free market and the dismantling of public ownership, static and government regulation of economic activities. Thus, there are several arguments in this neoclassical counter-revolution. First is incorrect pricing strategy and excessive government interference by excessively active developing country government result in poor resource allocations. Second, the slowing of economic growth is due to the state interference in economic activities. Thirdly, promoting competitive free market to flourish, prioritizing state-owned enterprises, promoting free trade and export expansion, welcoming investors from developed countries, and eliminating the fair fora of government regulation and price distortion in factors, product, and financial markets. Both economic efficiency and economic growth will be stimulated. Last but not least, developing world in underdeveloped not because of the predatory activities of the developed world and the international agencies that is controlled, but rather because of the heavy hand of the state and the corruption, inefficiency, and lack of economic incentive that permeate the economies of developing nations. Next, the neoclassical counter-revolution can be divided into three components, which are free market approach, public choice, and market-friendly. Free market analysts argue that market alone are efficient. It also a theoretical analysis of the properties of an economic system operating with free markets, often under the assumption that an unregulated market performs better than one with government regulations. Next is public choice. It also known as neopolitical economic approach and theory that self-interest guide all individual behavior, and the governments are inefficient and corrupt because people use government to pursue their own agendas. Last is market-friendly approach, which the notion heuristic promulgated by the World Bank that successful development policy requires government to create an environment in which market can operate efficiently and to intervene only selective in the economy in areas where the market is inefficient. Now we will move to the traditional neoclassical growth theory. There are some difference between solo neoclassical theory model and Harold Domar model. Slow neoclassical growth model is diminishing returns to each factors of production but constant return to scale. Exogenous technological change generates long-term economic growth, while Harold Domar model is second factor, labor, and introducing a third independence variable, technology to the growth equation. At this subtopic, we'll also talk about open economics and closed economics. Open economics is an economy that this foreign trade and has extensive financial and non-financial contracts with the rest of the world, while closed economy is an economy in which there are no foreign trade, transaction, or other economic contracts with the rest of the world. Now we will discuss about dependence theories and neoclassical revisionists. Dependence theories is under development as an externally induced phenomenon, while neoclassical revisionist is an internally induced phenomenon of developing countries caused by too much government intervention and bad economics policy. But what's of the neoclassical counter-revolutionary contention that free markets and less government provide the basic ingredients for development? On strictly efficiency criteria, there can be little doubt that market price allocation usually does a better job than the state interventions. The problem is that many developing country economics are so different in structure and organization from their Western counterparts that the behavior assumption and policy precept of traditional neoclassical theory are sometimes questionable and often incorrect. Finally, we learn from neoclassical theory with regret the importance of elementary supply and demand analysis in arriving at correct product, factors, and foreign exchange prices for efficient production and resource allocation. In it, we will demonstrate the usefulness of various tools of neoclassical theory in our later analysis of problems such as population growth, agricultural stagnation, unemployment and underemployment, child labor, education demands, the environment, export promotion versus import substitution, devaluation, project planning, monetary policy, and economic privatizations. That's all from me today. Thank you. And now I would like to pass the next topic to the next presenter, Dishalini.
Thank you, Shifan. Hi, my below lecturer and my fellow friends. Now I'm going to present the classic theory of development, which is reconciling the differences. In this chapter, there is range of competing theories and approaches to study the economic development, and also their approaches as their strengths and weaknesses. About the development in this fact, that there is such a controversy is ideological and empirical, makes the study economic development both challenging and also exciting. The basic examining the possibilities of complementary development of the diverse nation which is Africa, Asia and Latin America. The model emphasizes the crucial role that saving and investment play in promoting sustainable long-run growth, and the low productivity to high productivity activities in the process of economic development, attempting the analysis that the many linkages between the traditional agriculture and modern industry, and clarifying the recent growth experience such as that China. As a classifier as four important, which is the importance of the structure and working of the world economy, the many ways in which decisions made in the developed world can affect the life of million people in the developing world. The second is the very fact of their dependence and their vulnerability to key economic decisions made in the capital of North America, Western Europe or Japan, and forces us to recognize the importance of some of the insight. The third is the unquestioning exaltation of free market and open economies along with the universal disparagement of public sector leaders. Promoting growth with equity in the developing world is open to serious challenge. And lastly, the government intervention in areas where unfettered market forces will lead to undesirable economic and social outcomes, and modern developed economic analysis in clarifying the logic of how well-formulated government policy can facilitate the development of market and share growth. So as we can see, each of their approaches has something to offer. In summary, their respective contribution will become clear later in the book when we explore in detail both the origin of possible solution to a wide range of problems such as poverty, population growth, unemployment, rural development, international trade, and also the environment. That's all from me. Thanks for listening, and I will pass this presentation to my group member.
Next, we move to Appendix 3.1, which is component of economic growth. There are three components of economic growth. First is capital accumulation, second is population and labor force growth, and third is technological progress. Let's continue with capital accumulation. Capital accumulation is results when some proportion of present income is saved and invested in order to augment future output and income, increasing a country's stock of real capital. To increase the production of capital goods necessitates a reduction in the production of consumer goods. It also including all new investment in land, physical equipment, and human resources through improvement in health, education, and job skills. New factory, machinery, equipment, and material increase the physical capital stock of a nation and make it possible for expanded output level to be achieved. These directly productive investment are supplemented by investment in what is known as social and economic infrastructures. Capital stock, economic infrastructure, and human capital are also concerned in capital accumulation. Capital stock, the total amount of physical goods existing at a particular time that have been produced by use in the production of other goods and services. Next, economic infrastructure. The amount of physical and financial capital embodied in roads, railway, waterways, airway, and other transportation and communication plus other facilities such as water supplies, financial institutions, electricity, and public services such as health and education. Last, human capital. Productive investment embodied in human person including skills, location, and health. All of these phenomena and many others are forms of investment that lead to capital accumulation. The next slide is explained about population and labor force growth. Population growth and the associated eventual increase in the labor force has traditionally been considered a positive factor in stimulating economic growth. A large labor force means more productive workers and a large overall population increase the potential size of domestic market. It will depend on the ability of the economic system to absorb and productively employ these added worker and ability largely associated with the rate and kind of capital accumulation and the availability of related factors such as managerial and administrative skills. Given an initial understanding of the first two fundamental components of economic growth, let's see how they interact via the production possibility curve to expand society's potential total output of all goods. Figure A 3.1.1 shows two production possibility curve for rice and radios. Initial possibility for the production of rice and radios are shown by the curve PP to prime P prime. Now, suppose that without any change in technology, the quantity of physical and human resources were to double as a result of either investment that improve the quality of existing resources or investment in new resources. This figure also shows that this doubling of total resources will cause the entire production possibility curve to shift uniformly outward from PP to P prime P prime. More radio and more rice can now be produced. Because these are assumed to be the only two goods produced by this economy, it follows that the gross domestic product will be higher than before, not the event of the country in question operating with underutilized physical and human resources as that point ends. A growth of productive resources can result in the highest total output combination as at point S prime. Even though there may still be widespread unemployment and underutilized or idle capital and land. These resources grow even the necessary condition for short-run economic growth because the better utilization or idle existing resources can raise output levels substantially, as portrayed in the movement from X to X prime in the figure. Nevertheless, in the long run, the improvement and upgrading for the quality of existing resources and new investment designed to expand the quantity of the resources are principal means of illustrating the growth of national output. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. I will present my part, technology progress. Okay, technological progress refer to the discovery of a new and improved method of producing goods. Change in technology lead to an increased productive of labor, capital and other of production. Technology refer to the process through input are transferred to output. Okay, next. Okay, the technological change involve the invention of technology and their release as open source via research and development, the continued improvement of the technology, and the diffusion of technology throughout to the industry or society. Okay, fasa of technology. Fasa of technology progresses. Fasa of technological progress have three, which is invention, innovation, and diffusion. Okay, first, invention. Invention is the act of creating a new technology that involves a new scientific or technical idea, and the means of its embodiment or achievement, and also has use and purpose. Okay, innovation. Innovation refers to the discovery of a new way to use of innovative, exciting technologies. There have 5 key attribute technology, which is relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, trial, and observability. Okay, for last, diffusion. Diffusion relate to the spread of technology throughout a society or industry, that and the process by which a new idea or behavior is accepted by market and society. Okay, innovation have 5 key attribute in technology: relative advantage, triability, complexity, compatibility, and observability. Okay, relative advantage means the product of behavior is perceived as being better than the alternative by the person adapting the innovative. Compatibility refer to how the innovation align with the adapted lifestyle. Triability refer to the process of testing the innovation to see it or how well it works. Complexity, the easiest an innovation is to understand and use, the more likely is to be adapted. And last, observability. Observability involves seeing the product behavior in action. It has demonstrated how it work. Okay, that's all from Group Tesla. Thank you.